Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how to create this hover interaction using the wixAnimation API. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is add a container to our banner. We're then going to give this container a minimum height of 48 pixels and we're going to give it a fixed width of 200 pixels. Let's move that to there and we'll dock that to the left. The next thing we're going to do is add a button inside this container, and we're going to give this a width of 100%. We're going to dock it to the left and to the top, and we're going to give it a minimum height of 48 pixels as well. Then we're going to reselect the container and we're going to change that background opacity to 0 so it doesn't have any color. Next we're going to select the button. We're going to change the color. I'm going to click add because I haven't set up the colors for this tutorial. The color we're going to use is FFAA33. I'm going to click apply. I'm going to close that. Then we're going to add a border. The border is going to be the same yellow color and it's going to have a 2 pixel width. We're going to reduce the corners to 10 pixels on all sides. And we're also going to change the text. We're going to change the text to black. And we're going to change the font to Railway semi-bold. And we will leave it at 16 pixels. Next, on the hover effect, we're going to give the background and opacity a 0. The text is going to stay black. And we're going to have the border color yellow. And the opacity needs to be set as 100. So we've got the first part of the hover interaction done. Next we're going to add a shape to our container. We're going to align the shape to the center. And we're going to give it a pixel width of 28 pixels. And I want that to be 24 pixels from the right. Then we're going to change this basic shape. We want to select the vector art and then search for truck, and we're going to select this truck here and add to page. Okay, now that the button's set up and the hover interactions that we can do without using Velo is done, next we're going to move on to the code part of this video. The first thing you have to do is turn on dev mode. It shouldn't take long. Then we're going to delete these comments because we don't need them. Okay, the first thing we have got to do is import the wixAnimation API, and to do that we type import wix capital A animations from quotes wix animation. So it'd be good if I typed properly. Animations. You can just press enter for it to type it out completely as well once it's shown in the drop down there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to select our vector image and we're going to change the ID to truck. Oh, I've just remembered something. We need to select our container here and we need the overflow content set to hidden. This is so that when we move this image to the right, we won't be able to see it on the screen anymore. The next thing we've got to do is create a variable. I'm going to call this variable timeline. And this is going to equals the wixAnimations.timeline and then the brackets. The timeline is what we will add our animation properties to in a minute. Next we're going to create another variable. We're going to use a const again. We're going to call this variable truck and it's going to equals $w brackets, then you need some quotes, you can use double or single, hash key, and then we're going to use the ID that we created for the vector image a minute ago, which was truck. Get rid of those two. Next we're going to start building out the animation. So the first thing we type is timeline.add, and then the first part of this is we put in the element we want to target, and that's going to be our truck variable. Then we do a comma and we do the curly brackets, which is an object, and then this object takes certain keys of what we want to do for the animation. The first part of this animation, we're going to rotate the truck so it goes up a tiny bit. So we type rotate, the two little dots, can't remember what they're called, and we want that to be -5 degrees, and then a comma, and then we have to set a duration for this animation, and we're going to set that at 100 milliseconds. I'm going to quickly show you what this actually looks like at the moment. So we need to add an event so that when the button is hovered, this animation is played. So we select our button, then we go down to the side here and we look at the event handlers and we want on mouse in, and then we add event. We can get rid of these comments, and then to play the animation on mouse in, we type timeline.play and the brackets. Okay, now I'm going to click the preview button so we can see what the animation does at the moment. When we hover it, the truck should just tip up a little bit, like so. I'll redo the preview so you can see it again. We hover over it and we get that tiny little bit of a rotation. Next, we're going to come back to our timeline and we're going to add on to this by pressing dot, add again, and we want to target the truck element still, and we also need another object for the animation, and this time we want the rotation. Try and get rid of that box out of the way. The rotation back to 0. We also want to update the x-axis and we're going to set that to 300, and we want this to take 200 milliseconds, so we will set a duration of 200, but we also need this to happen after this first part of the timeline has played, because if we preview it at the moment, you don't really notice the tilting of the truck very much. I'll increase this duration because that was very fast. Let's try 300 instead. You can kind of see it very, very briefly. But what we're going to do instead is I'm going to add a delay . Have I spelled that wrong? No. Not sure. Oh, that's why I'm getting an error. I haven't done the comma there. I'm going to add a delay, and we're going to make this delay 200 milliseconds. Now what should happen is this will play over 100 milliseconds, and then this one won't play until 200 milliseconds has passed. So if we click preview, we'll see a little bit of the truck go up and then off. Now we want that to come back when we unhover the button. For that, what we do is we select the button again, we come down to this side and we want to select an on mouse out event. We will add that event. We will get rid of these comments, and then we will select our animation timeline and then .reverse and then the brackets. Now if we click run, when we hover over this button, the animation should play, and then when we come back it reverses and the truck comes back into place. Hope you enjoyed this video and it is helpful. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments down below, and thank you for watching.